We're going hot. And here we go again. Water everywhere. Flooded streets, flash flood warnings. Alarm kept going off on the radio yesterday. Drivers here in the Oslo County area, they've been warned to stay off the streets and roadways unless they really actually have to drive. If y'all don't have to get out on the road this morning, don't. Ponding water made travel conditions dangerous. Both of you came in this morning, and I'm glad you got here. So it's a sloppy mess out there.
I will tell you, Gum Branch, Belfort Country Club had a lot of ponding. The sides of the roads were flooding.
Yeah.
I had to slow way down, and I will say there were some idiots. I'm sorry, but that's just the word for the day.
That's the polite word for it.
That just flew by me, and go ahead.
Some places in Onslow County yesterday recorded more than 2 inches of rain overnight, up through midnight last night, up to 4 inches in a couple of locations during the afternoon downpours. Right here, it had 1.6 as of midnight last night. That was in the 24 hours up to that. We didn't get as much rain as a lot of areas did. We've had since midnight, we've had almost 3/4 of an inch here. So it's been an interesting overnight, and we ain't through.
I told you over last I looked, it was 3.60 inches of rain, and at midnight it zeroes out, and as sometime this morning I looked and it was well over 2. So we were really getting hit hard over my area.
More rain forecast today. When it is raining and you have your windshield wipers on, remember North Carolina law requires all motorists to burn low beam headlights anytime it's raining, okay? Whatever you do, slow down. At no more than half throttle, half speed. Whatever the posted speed limit is, just slow your butt down. If you hit a puddle of water and you're running faster, you're going to start slipping and sliding. The more likely it is that you will hydroplane and lose control of your car. Those things will grab you. They'll grab one or two wheels, spin you around sideways, and that's when cars do the little loop-de-loop, and you don't know what you're going to hit, but it's not going to be pretty. Back away from the vehicle in front of you. Your ability to quickly stop, should he stop or have a wreck, it ain't that good. Because you've got a reaction time. If he stops suddenly, you got to remember you're not going to be stopping as quickly as he did because he's already in motion to stop. Leave a lot of room between the two of you. Do not concern yourself with the crazy people that might be tailgating you. They can pass when it's clear. Do not let them rattle you. So many people, you get somebody on your bumper, and I was talking with one yesterday who had some woman was tailgating him, and he was just like, come on. Please stop it. But no, they just had this desire to do it. I don't care who they are behind me. They're not my problem. I'm theirs. Should I stop? Make sure everyone in your car is buckled up. Put your cell phone away anywhere but in your hand. Distracted driving is illegal and dangerous, and you will be assured of a ticket if you're occupied with your phone when you have a wreck. That's a guaranteed additional charge. In addition to injuries and damages to your car, let me explain something to you. If you don't believe in anything else, if you don't really care about the safety aspect of it, consider this. The fines for driving too fast for conditions, not burning your headlights, following too close, not wearing a seatbelt, and distracted driving, plus the cost of court and the increases on your insurance premiums for the next 3 years can easily exceed a few mortgage payments. Will that get your attention?
In a heartbeat.
If nothing else, what it's going to cost you for a simple wreck, because if you are doing all of that other stuff, you're going to be charged with all of it because the police are getting tired of it. They're going to hook you up. It might take 2 tickets to write you, but they're going to do it. We got some stuff coming this morning. We're going to be talking with our congressman here in about 8 or 10 minutes. Dr. Greg Murphy, 3rd District His monthly call-in time is today, and checked yesterday, or he checked with us yesterday, and he's good to go. Wanted to come in a little bit early, so we're going to do him at 7:15. And then during the 7:30-ish hour, we're going to have John Legato, retired special agent with the FBI. He was involved and has been involved with a friend of the family, his family, and that particular family here. We had them on the air here one day, Kevin Smith, and then John, of course. And we're talking about Kevin got in a little hot water some years ago over in Craven County, and then spilled over into Onslow County for one reason or another. He was accused of some stuff. Warrants were taken out, and by a sheriff's investigator, or I think he was an investigator at the time. And the young man spent almost 6 years in jail, not in prison. He never made it to court. He never had a court trial. He still hasn't had a court trial, but the charges have all been dropped after almost 6 years. And Dave Jordan from WITN, he did the first of two-part last night was aired on WITN. So Dave said he was going to try to call in this morning too. You got to understand these people when they get off at midnight or so and have to do some promos. This time of morning, he's still sleeping. You can't just go home at midnight and go straight to sleep. You understand that, right? You got to unwind just a little while. So working that shift is a crazy shift to be working. So he's going to try to call in this morning while John's here. So, get a feedback from Mr. Legato, Agent Legato. I talked to him briefly yesterday and last night. And so we'll see what he's got on his mind about this after watching it. Do weather a little bit early. You guys want to do something fun today? You like roller coasters?
I used to, not so
Get a
much.
boat and head out to the fishing grounds offshore out of New River Inlet.
Okay.
Offshore out to 20 nautical miles today. Small craft advisory is in effect through late tonight. I hope you understand why. Southeasterly winds 20 to 25 knots, become southerly 15 to 20 this afternoon. Gusts up to 30 knots. Seas 6 to 8 feet. They say 5 to 6 near shore. You're not going to be able to get near shore, so forget about that part. Sounds and rivers rough, diminishing to choppy in the afternoon. Showers with a chance of thunderstorms. Oh, yeah, guess what? That's happening. Limited visibility. Southwesterly winds tomorrow, 5 to 10. Seas 3 to 5. Sounds and rivers a light chop. Pesky showers, maybe even a few thunderstorms. Thursday, getting better. Southwesterly winds 10 to 15. Seas 3 to 4 feet. Sounds and rivers a moderate chop. Some showers will be hanging around, making sure the salt water is rinsed from your boats.
First of all, this is Kelly Knapp, since we didn't introduce ourselves at the top of the hour. And also today, showers and thunderstorms, most of the day, high of 79, 20-mile-an-hour gusts. It's a 100% chance of rain, and it's going to rain quite a bit.
Yep.
Tonight, partly cloudy, low of 63. Showers and possibly a thunderstorm, high of 82. The winds will gust right around 15 miles an hour tomorrow. 80% chance of rain. Tomorrow night, about a 80% chance again. Same thing, low of 64. But on Thursday, mostly sunny, a high of 87.
Looking
and then it
forward
just
to
gets
that.
hot. Saturday's going to be 94.
Yeah, they're talking next week in the 90s.
Yeah,
And we're going to be complaining.
Who is?
I will be.
Yeah, well, you can
Not
complain all
me.
you
It's
want.
hot.
I'm not going to be
That's
complaining.
warm. I like
It's
it.
hot.
And Lee's on the other end of the counter here.
Well, good morning.
Lee Barrows.
I'm Lee Barrows.
And I'm John Smith.
We all knew who you were.
No, I don't. I don't even
We
in the
are.
morning.
Somebody tuning in that does not know who.
When I look up in the mirror in the morning, I'm saying, who is that?
Oh, I do that every morning. I'm like, what happened?
Yeah, where did all times go?
Where did all that youth go?
Well, we got a little time here until the phone rings. A whole bunch of members of our clergy protested outside an ICE facility in Newark yesterday. What were they thinking?
Man,
They
What are they protesting?
what is going on in New
it's
Jersey?
because of the ICE is rounding up
Jersey.
people, okay? And they say that they're going to continue to block the gates accessing the facility until they are arrested. Well, guess what, Jack? They got room. And they might not put you in a prison anywhere near your home in New Jersey. You may be on the West Coast. There's a place down south called Guantanamo Bay, Cuba.
Well, where are these people? Why are they not protesting, child abuse? Why are they not protesting homelessness? Why are they not protesting people that don't have enough food to eat?
Because those are things that matter.
They're not
those
going to
are
get any
things that are
publicity.
important.
They get no publicity
right.
over that.
None.
I'm beginning to think they don't care about American citizens.
They care about publicity.
Yeah.
Special word of the day.
That's going to be it.
I agree with that.
I'm sorry.
I
I
don't
should
think that's
stop
a strong
using that
enough
word,
word.
but
It's not a strong enough
Well,
word. We need to come up with something better. That we
I
don't get in trouble
can.
for. Oh, same.
But I agree with
They
you.
called an ambulance to go to the facility yesterday.
For what?
Because they needed somebody on the inside. That somebody needed to be transported. ICE did. They had to turn them away because there were so many people at the gate. They were afraid that the people would rush through the open gate if they opened the gate for the ambulance. You know what? Now we have a problem.
Then here's what I say let's do, okay? Let's line everybody up in the line that's protesting. Line all the illegals that are criminals and we know they've committed stuff and, whatever, in a line. Pair them off.
Yeah, y'all go
Take
home.
one home. Take that guy to your house with you and your family.
In fact,
Next person, take the same
Well,
one and
they-
go down the line.
they had
And since
50
y'all don't want to help a citizen, help some of that scum of
They
the
had
earth.
50 preachers there, so why don't they
Yeah.
take maybe 2 each? They could take
Take
2
them.
each.
You love everybody so much. Go do
I'm
it.
sure your wife and kids would love you for it.
Let's see how long you like that then.
Aw.
Well, this whole thing, going back to the trio of House Democrats who were out there in New Jersey, and they were protesting the deportation of some immigrants, and they were actually out there, got into a scuffle with federal agents.
You know what? The one thing,
That should have been assault on a law enforcement charge right there.
the one
Yeah.
thing,
Flat out should have been a charge.
the one thing that needs to be done now, and for riot control, they call it dial
Tear
911
gas.
and get the fire department down there.
Oh,
With a 2.5-inch line and the pressure coming out of it, you will move a car if you want to.
I saw that on one of the protests. It was a couple months ago.
Well, I've seen it.
I don't remember where it was
used to be
at.
kind of
But
common
fire
practice.
trucks were spraying the hoses, man.
Yeah.
People were moving.
They'll move.
Have y'all noticed? We don't hear a peep out of good old little Maryland man down there when all this other stuff about his domestic violence started coming out. Who was it that went down there? That Maryland senator,
And a couple of Congress
and a
people.
couple of the women squawking as usual. Where I don't like them. I don't
can
because
tell.
they don't do nothing for our citizens. Tell me, these people aren't citizens. Let's be very clear. Okay.
No, I
So,
don't-
When they start doing something for the citizens, we might have a little more better opinion. Right now, I don't have a very high opinion
Well,
at
going
all.
back to that scuffle I was talking about, the Newark mayor was arrested.
Good, I
He
hope
was
it.
part of it.
And I hope he's still sitting
He
in
was
jail.
charged with
No, that's fine.
trespassing.
Is he out now?
Yeah.
And
He's released from jail.
they also claim an ICE agent was assaulted. So there
Once
may be
again,
more pending.
When you start
Assault
assaulting a
on law
federal-
enforcement official needs to be charged.
federal
Make that charge
assault
out
on
there.
federal agents carries federal crime.
It is. It's a federal crime.
crimes,
Yep.
And that's whatever.
Well, just because you're a member of the Congress does not mean you are above the
you
law.
are only
Who are you telling? They think so.
you
Let's
are
be
only
serious.
part of Congress when Congress is in session or you're working on an active situation such as in a committee or whatever. You ain't nothing by yourself.
Well, a lot of them think they are.
I know they
Do
do.
you remember?
With the
go
county
back-
commissioners, same thing. I
I
mean,
agree with
same
that, too.
thing applies to
Yeah.
county commissioners, city
Yeah.
council people, and all this. No, you're nothing until you're together.
Go back to August, September, October, November 2024. What did we hear from the Democratic Party? We need to get along. We need to work together. We need to stop this incessant fighting. So we can ask our congressman about it.
Yeah, we do have access to our congressman this morning,
Yes,
Dr.
we
Greg
do.
Murphy, and I wonder if he was over in New Jersey yesterday trying to assist with that situation. I think they really needed a doctor over there, but they needed a psychiatrist over there. Sorry, Doc.
Hey guys, good morning.
How are you?
We were just talking about the scuffle in New Jersey with several members of the Congress and the mayor of Newark, how they were out there protesting and fighting with ICE. I mean, really?
Isn't that nice? They want to. They're just showing their true colors. They just want to fight on behalf of criminals or people who hate this country.
I'm just trying to figure out. We got a lot of stuff that's got to be done in Congress that actually requires Congress people to be present to make it happen. Am I wrong here, or what did I miss the boat?
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, and it's just a farce. I mean, we have people traveling down to El Salvador to plead the case for an MS-13 gang member who helped supply drugs, helped traffic drugs, part of raping, part of murdering. What the hell are these people thinking about?
Well, first of all, MS-13 is a terrorist organization. It's been declared as that. They are therefore a terrorist group. I still don't understand why we don't use the same tactics we use with this guy named Bin Laden. Go get him any way you can and put him away.
Yep. I can easily understand that and sympathize with that. The thing is, I love it. These people say, "Oh, bring him back home." Well, his own president says he's a criminal and he's in our jail, and we're not letting him go. So, it just makes no sense.
Yeah,
no sense.
Well, would they do this without the TV cameras? Would they be out there?
Probably not.
Yeah,
I've said that many, many times. The worst thing to happen to Congress are the 400 plus channels that are in the TV now,
yes.
And it's just ridiculous because Republican and Democrat.
Oh yeah.
One girl on the Republican side, if she hadn't been in the news, if she hasn't been in the news every 4 days, she does something crazy to make herself in the news.
Yeah.
So it's not anything just Republican or Democrat. It's just it's a pathetic situation, and it's an embarrassment for the American people.
Not long after your last appearance a month ago, I got to tell you something. I had I forgot who it was who'd called in here, but they were not liking some of the stuff that you were doing and yada yada. It wasn't significant enough for me to recall it for an entire month. You know how old people are. So I'm in the here and now, not in yesteryear. But anyway, I said, well, why don't y'all just elect me? Unfortunately, I mean, what would you get then? But unfortunately, or somebody else
started the rumors.
And then the rumors started. I'm like, I've had 3 calls.
Rayford's running for Congress.
And I was running for Congress.
All right, and Rayford.
Let's go. Can I be your we could run together.
I will. I'll help your campaign. I'll be your campaign man.
No, I don't want that. No, that would be fun.
It's kind of funny. I went from a job with a 99% approval rating as a physician because I really think I worked hard. My patients appreciated it. And I went to one that had a 50% plus or minus rating, plus or minus 1, and that depends on if my wife is mad at me or not.
Right, I got that. I understand.
So, I just have to make the decisions with the information that I've had, that I've researched, my foundational beliefs, and let it go. Let it go.
Yeah, I really can't get the protest. That's just one of the things that I cannot get. We got a lot of work. You got a lot of work. I don't have a lot of work to do. You and the other 434 members of the House are supposed to be out there working, getting things done.
Well, I will tell you, today we start what's called a markup. We begin voting on the tax bill in the Ways and Means Committee, and it's supposed to start about 2 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And will most likely go till probably 2 o'clock the next day, straight through.
Lord.
Yes, because the Democrats, there are over 200 plus provisions in the bill, and we have to vote on each of those separately. Mm-hmm. But the Democrats have put up like 20 amendments per provision, and so we have to, have all of those provisions and all the amendments voted on, and so it'll take a while. It'll be remind me of my long surgical days.
Especially when there was an issue that happens in the middle of surgery. Here we go again. Got to start again. I was asking the other day, and I was doing it on the state level. Just how many bills are introduced and then maybe discussed in committee if they get that far? And those that come out of committee, of all of the people and the numbers of bills that are thrown out there, that some of them make headlines, and I think they were just introduced just to make headlines. How many of those are actually ever going to become law? Out of every bill that is drawn up, how many are actually going to become law?
I don't know that percentage, but I imagine it's less than 5%. Because a lot of the bills that I've introduced oftentimes get rolled into major other packages.
Uh-huh.
So it doesn't look like, quote, I've passed a law. But I had several when I was on education and labor. I was on several of my bills got rolled into another bill, and the provisions of my bill were passed and then, put into law. But it didn't look like my bill went into law. Mm-hmm. And so it's different. Well, but like today, as I said, with the Ways and Means component of Trumpo's big, beautiful bill, I guess I shouldn't call him that. I didn't mean it anyway. Look, he is such in person, he's such a fun guy, and really personable. People would be blown away by that.
I bet they would.
So anyway, and so a lot of that happens per se. So.
Well, we're getting some good news, I think, where as the realist among us had said all along, sometimes you got to throw something out there and let people know that I'm carrying a big stick. And if you don't agree and you don't comply, then I'm going to have to weigh this big stick until things get done. Like 145 or 400% tariff on products that are coming out of China. And now that's what we were going to do because they were increasing the tariffs. It was a very imbalanced system. But suddenly, as of yesterday, I understand that those taxes are going to be down to 30%, and China's is going to be down to 10%.
Well, it's if people only understood the last years of the Biden administration, literally the president was asleep, and that's not even a metaphor.
No.
Did absolutely nothing on trade. And, look, we're in a horrible, horrible trade deficit. We don't make anything more as a country. We don't make anything. Mm-hmm. In the last year, China made 1,400 vessels. I'm not talking about, Parkers or Grady White's vessels. Seaworthy vessels. And the U.S. made 6.
Ouch.
That's right.
So we've become a service and a government employment society. And we saw during the pandemic that if we don't make things like pharmaceuticals or semiconductors, we can be in a real big trouble. And so the only way to change that is either one, militarily, which nobody wants.
Nope.
Or two, economically.
We can handle that. Now, so
that's what the tariffs are, and they've had a resounding effect. The countries have said, "Look, we had too high tariffs against you, and that's we agree, and we're going to come back to the drawing board."
Okay, let's talk about something that you're extremely familiar with, even before you were in Congress. It's called drugs, pills, things that I have to go spend a lot of money for. But if I were to buy them from Canada, I can get I am told by my doctors, you can do this by mail order, and it's going to come from north of the border, and it's going to cost you less money.
Yeah.
How can I get a pill? I don't know, for $2 in Canada that costs me the same pill that is manufactured in this country and then shipped to Canada for resale. I can buy cheaper after all of that than I can buy it down the street here at Reeler.
It's not really the same pill, for one.
Oh, really?
But two, it's not. Oftentimes they're generics, and we don't make many generics in this country.
Yeah.
We do some, but most of the generics are made in other countries. It's the same medicine, not necessarily the same pill. That said, They're often, usually bioequivalent. The problem is that so many of these other governments, these most favored nation governments, are put on wall blocks and said, we're not paying any more than this for this drug. And so the burden has been come upon the American people to pay for all the research, pay for all this,
Right.
and pay for the profits. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right at all. And the problem with what the president did with the most favored nation status on Medicaid yesterday, which I have to say I disagree with, is that it will, along with some of the provisions of the famous Inflation Reduction Act, which had nothing to do with inflation, really killed so much innovation and research that's going on in medicine. So, we've made so much progress in the last decade in medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable amount of progress. But the IRA said, all right, well, we're going to stop. We're just basically going to stop companies doing big research. And so we can't do that. We're the world's leader in research. And so his ruling on the most favored nation status is really going to be a massive blow to our pharmaceutical industry. Can they take some of it? Absolutely. Is it what I would have chosen? Probably not.
Okay.
But it's a real major problem. But the problem is with pharmaceuticals in this country, it's not so much the pharmaceutical companies, it is these things called pharmacy benefit managers run by insurance companies, and they siphon off profits of these drugs.
Gotcha.
And through rebates and other schemes, and they are the real, I'd like to say, progenitor of high drug prices in the country.
Okay, so there needs to be an overall, a big, everything's got to come under a bigger umbrella than it's coming under then instead of just surgical attacks.
Well, it's just insurance
Gotcha.
lobby is the greatest lobby in this town,
Wow.
and it is ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
One of the problems that I see with what you were talking about and what I heard from the president yesterday, and my wife and I had a discussion because I've got a nephew and his wife as well. They are in the research area for pharmaceuticals. And they're concerned about, am I going to have a job?
It's true. I really think it.
Okay.
I just have to say I love our president, but this is one policy I didn't agree with.
Okay.
We need to have more scalpels rather than sledgehammers. We've done a great job with the sledgehammers on so many things, but we're the world's leading medical research innovator, and we don't need the Chinese would be happy to scoop these people up.
Yeah,
we don't need that.
I'm sure. Social Security, and my waitress that I give her some money every time I go get some food and stuff from her. They're supposed to be paying taxes on it. Paying taxes. I have to pay Social Security income taxes. What's up with that?
All right. Well, two things. Number one, you can't do Social Security in reconciliation, but what we're doing is providing tax relief for seniors.
Okay.
Especially lower income seniors. I believe and this is part of the bill we'll mark up today, that any senior underage or any senior who makes under $75,000 a year will essentially pay no taxes.
Is that here's the big deal with that. Is that per household or per individual?
So it'll be prorated for households.
Okay.
There'll be certain things for married couples, certain things for singles. If I recall correctly, there were a few last-minute changes in the bill yesterday, and so I'm not 100% sure where that lives right now.
Well, we need to keep our eye on that.
I'll find that out in a couple hours.
Yes.
Okay.
And the no tax on tips. Personally, I don't know what good a pro-growth policy that is. There's so many individuals who get paid in cash that never pay the taxes on them anyway. And I don't see people just because of this provision saying, oh, wow, I'm going to report it because then I don't have to pay taxes on it. But guess what? What happens when you report it? You have to pay FICA. You have to pay Medicare taxes. You have to pay other taxes. So I don't know how much that's really going to do.
I would imagine, too, that under certain conditions, because I don't know how many people pay with cash when they go to pay, their server. But I guess from what I've seen, and maybe I'm just the abnormal, but I pay mine. I do a debit card. Here we go. But if I do a debit card and the tip is put on the debit card, then the restaurant or whoever, they're going to have to pay, and therefore there's going to be a record of that, and that might be turned in.
Yeah.
So they would get taxed on it.
There will be, and I would think the majority of taxes now do occur on credit or debit cards.
They do.
But, the bellhops, taxi cab drivers sometimes, and some of these other individuals do get cash.
Mm-hmm.
So and there's also an income limit on it also. And so, I don't know that that's quite going to be as big a bang. It was a that the president made. And, it's been debated and everything. It's one of the things that the president wants.
Yeah.
So those are the two top items. Racer, I love y'all.
You got to go. I know. I promised 7:30, so you're good to go.
It was nice talking to you.
Congressman,
Hey,
thank
y'all
you.
take care. We'll talk soon.
You got to see you in a month.
Okay.
Bye.
Uh,
Yeah, I had so many questions for him.
There's so much out there.
Yes.
But they called yesterday and asking about we gotta have a hard out on this
Well,
one. So
I know that the House Ways and Means Committee met yesterday, and they were discussing this tax on Social Security. And that's what I was interested in, and I like what he said. But is he talking just solely no tax on Social Security, or as your total income, including your retirement? $75,000 per person a year.
no, he's talking about Social Security, tax on social income, tax on Social Security, and that's going to be again like he was talking about. I mean, you got you and your spouse in the house.
Right.
And let's just say that they're both on Social Security. Well, you're going to have to figure out whether that and whatever other income, which could be retirement, it could be, dividends each year. Whoever knows whatever's being paid. How that's, I don't know. Here's the one thing that some of us old folks can remember from yesteryear. Figures lie and liars figure.
It's true that
And
too.
I
Very true.
I think that just comes up so much. And in the house here, we've got a young man that's walked through the doors, and the water didn't stick to him a bit. It just ran right off his back.
Like a duck.
Can't hear you.
I
John
didn't hear
Legato,
what he said
put your
either.
glasses
Nobody
on.
heard what you said.
What'd she say?
I don't know what he said.
Well, you didn't have your headphones on.
He said he couldn't hear you. That's what
Well,
he just said.
okay.
You didn't even hear him say that.
Oh, I didn't hear him say that
I-
because he wasn't talking yet. John Legato, retired special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Some people said Federal Bureau of Instigation.
Lately. Yeah, not in my time.
Go ahead, ask me.
How you doing?
I was waiting for that.
You was?
I was waiting for that. Kind of on the sloppy side out there today.
Yeah, it is. But, we get so used to, I lived in Cleveland, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and we get so used to beautiful days that these days are, you mark them. It's very unusual.
This is an unusual period of time. So we're hopefully we will make up for some of the deficit that we've had, because we've had a lot of lack of rainfall. I've had to spend a lot of money on water to water I don't water lawn. I mean, I'm not worried about that. But my veggies out there, I worry about.
It's not water. It's water.
Water.
Coffee.
Coffee. I don't drink coffee. Was that close?
No, I mean, you should just give that up trying any accent, except your own, which is y'all.
Yeah, well, we can talk in good terms like that. That's not a problem, because I'm kind of Southern,
Bless your soul. Bless your heart. What is it? I forget.
Let's bless your heart. I'll explain to you later what that really means.
I know I'm Catholic, though.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to say that word, so I said, bless your soul.
There you go. Anyway, John, we were in here together about 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, whatever, for a nice interview in the studio with you and a young man, young to us anyway, Kevin Smith, who had spent some quality time in Craven County, looking out between the slats at everybody going and coming.
Yeah.
On a whole bunch of serious charges.
Very serious. I mean, life sentencing.
Yes. And those serious charges were suddenly like people started asking questions, including a guy named Legato, looking at stuff. And then suddenly he was out of jail after almost 6 years.
Yeah.
6 years.
Let me let me just stop you here because you hear jail, and a lot of people don't know the difference between jail and prison.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin was in jail for almost 6 years. Now, what jail is versus prison is a temporary holding place, 30 days, 8 months, whatever, waiting trial or waiting to be sent to a prison. So he was in a cell for almost 6 years. Now, if he was in a prison, he would get up, go to a job, he'd go to a chow hall. There would be, activities. Like, I'll give you an example. I arrested a drug dealer in Cleveland, Curtis Davis, and he got 10 years. Now, federal time, you get 52 good days a year. So you're going to serve 8.5 years if you get 10.
Right.
None of this 5 years. So I'm up at a prison. They took a college, Yankton, South Dakota. It was a beautiful campus. Lyle Alzado went there, for those people old enough to remember. And they converted it to a federal prison. But they upgraded the prison. They took the dorms, and instead of one setting for heat for the whole dorm, each convict in each room could set their own heat. And so I'm walking
It's a
around.
motel.
It was very nice. I was with the warden, and I'm walking around. I bump into Curtis Davis. And we had, Curtis, how you doing? And good. He said, how you doing, John? And he's looking at his watch. He still had 6 years to go. And so we're talking, and he said, yeah, this is good here. And he's looking at his watch. And I said, Kevin, you got 6 more years to do. What are you looking at your watch? And he said 2 things. He said they had arrested a French chef in the cafeteria. But then he said, after chow, I have a creative writing class. And I looked at the warden. I had been working, and you work narcotics, you know that you work.
Yep.
I said, I'd like to get in prison for a month.
We can learn something, couldn't we?
All right. So the point I'm making is that even in the harder prisons, the Lewisburgs, you have a routine. Kevin was in jail. He 48 out for 15 months or 18 months of this prison sentence or this jail sentence. He was in a cell, and he got 1 hour out of the cell. They would deliver his food to him for 6 years almost. Now you got to put yourself.
No common area that he could participate in.
No card playing.
No outdoors.
No outdoors. You couldn't go into the general area and play games.
Now, I will go back and reiterate. What was he convicted of while he was serving this sentence?
Misdemeanor. And he was in jail. The DA knew that he had to get him on something. So he either pled to a misdemeanor, which is like a parking ticket.
Right.
That's what a misdemeanor is. Or he spent another year in jail because they kept continuing. That's the other thing they did. Speedy trial.
The state continued the cases.
Yeah. It was that. I think it was 22, 23 continuances, and like 95% were the state.
Under normal conditions, in a state court. I've been in the state. I haven't been in the federal court too much. In a state court, the state, when they start making these continuances after continuances after continuances, there better be something very substantial that they're working on. Or otherwise, some judge is going to say, this dog is not going to fight.
Interesting point.
You got to be done.
Guess what they kept saying? Murder trial. Every time, well, not every time, but a lot of the time, yeah, they had a murder trial to try.
Oh.
And that superseded or took precedence over Kevin's case.
The courtroom was busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, when I started looking into this for North Carolina residents, I found out that North Carolina had a speedy trial rule, then they didn't have a speedy trial rule.
Yep.
It doesn't matter because under the Constitution, the 8th Amendment, the 6th Amendment is speedy trial. So
everything falls under the Constitution. If there's nothing in the state to supersede what's in the Constitution, then it falls under the Constitution. Period.
that is called the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution.
That's right.
And what it is certain things. It's civil rights issue. The things that involve your civil rights are under the Supremacy Clause. The feds take precedence. So the federal government doesn't want a Kevin Smith. spending 6 years for something he didn't do and never went to trial for.
No.
Kevin never went to trial. They just realized, look, he was in there about a year, and I went over to his defense attorney, and she had discovery. And I said, can I look? She said, yeah. I spent about 2 hours looking at the evidence. I looked at her and said, there's no case here. And she agreed. And he spent another 5 years in prison after that conversation.
It gets me. He's out. And to bring everybody up to speed, we talked with him and you at least 8 weeks ago now, I think. And then after I talked with him and talked with you numerous times, I said, and you and I both agreed this needs to go somewhere else too. It needs to get wide coverage. So I reached out to a friend in Washington, North Carolina. He's an anchor there, and he also does some reporting, special assignment reporting, Dave Jordan, and he put together a 2-piece story on it. First segment aired last night. I don't know whether it's up online yet or not, but if y'all didn't see it, it is. Mm-hmm. And then part number 2 is tonight. Dave may be calling in this morning because, you get out of work there at midnight, and, it's kind of difficult sometimes to get your head together by 7:30 in the morning. So he may be calling in this morning when he wakes up. What'd you think last night?
I'll tell you what, I was hoping, I was so involved in the case
Yes.
for now, it's 9 years. And I'm wondering if I'm watching this, I'm just sitting there and I'm watching this and I think, wow, that could happen to me. I mean, I don't know if any people watched it last night. I'd really like you to call and I want your reaction, but
Yes.
I'm watching this and I'm thinking, does anybody get that this is like Iran or Turkey?
We just got a prisoner released that Hamas had since 2023. An American. He was just released. The last American. Dual citizenship American. He was fighting right now. But they just turned him loose after 2 years. A little over 2 years.
So
Is that not scary?
It's because it seems that this is not a one and done. It seems that this may be, I don't want to say allegedly, a practice of Craven County.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Are there more cases over there?
Well, I have anecdotal cases. Kevin was there six years. Now,
Yeah,
Kevin,
he saw a lot come and go, right?
well, he's got a master's degree. He had a top secret clearance at Cherry Point. He was his only crime up to that point was an expired registration. So Kevin became basically an attorney. That's all he did for 6 years. He studied the law.
Mm-hmm.
And he met 20, 30, 40, 50 people that seemed to be in prison until they pleaded guilty to something. And some of the cases, Kevin said they were guilty, but in some of the cases, they were not guilty. There was no proof, according to Kevin.
Yeah, sure.
So what makes anybody think that this is a one and done thing?
Law enforcement is not supposed to be, and I'm not talking about the Craven Sheriff's Office or the district attorney, but law enforcement in general is not supposed to be used the pressure of, we're not going to let you out of jail unless you fess up.
Yeah.
But it sounds to me what you're saying is that some of that was going on.
I trust Kevin. And that's just one. We have these constitutional amendments. How about the other one was, and I'm sure Dave did this last night. I'm glad he put this in there. Excessive bond.
Yeah.
I mean,
For what reason?
$5 million.
How many murderers are in jail? Murderers, first degree, that are released under $1 million bond. How many drug traffickers are released under less bond?
I did some research on this, and like OJ had $1 million bond.
Yeah.
I mean,
talking about a flight risk, he was definitely one.
Yeah. So they got a $5 million and the Eighth Amendment talks about, excessive bond. You should be able to meet it. But now he's innocent at this point until proven guilty.
Sure.
$5 million bond. They knew he couldn't make it.
Mm-hmm. I would think that at some point in time on those charges, Now they were serious, but they were not like murder charges. They were, rape.
Alleged. Yeah. No, I'm not saying they weren't serious.
But I'm saying, but it would look like at some point in time between day one and day 5 times 6 times 365, 1,900, 2,000 days in jail. It looks like somebody outside the investigators' offices would say, what is this? Why is he still there?
They did that. And you know what they did? They would come to him every few years and say, if you plead to this, one time he could have got out. There's a law in North Carolina, I never heard it before, but sodomy or something, but it's not called that.
I know.
I forget the name of it. So, but it was a felony.
Unnatural sex act.
A natural sex act. So anyway, it's a felony. You know what Kevin said? I'm not pleading to a felony. He spent years in jail. They were going to let him. They were going to drop all the charges for this one.
But
charge.
he needed a felony.
He needed a felony. Kevin said, "No, Now he's been out. He's 9 years. If you Google Kevin Smith, what you come up with is rapist, multiple victims. So who was that said, where do I go to get my reputation back?
No, you can't. Now, the other thing about this is this guy's, what can you lose all of this time in your life? You lose your top secret clearance. You're not going to get it back.
And his wife killed his dog. Oh, because she knew, according to Kevin, how much he loved the dog. So as soon as he went to jail, she euthanized the dog. That's what Kevin told me.
Yeah. Okay. Now we'll get cleared up air here. First of all, he got mixed up with a hooker or two.
Yeah.
At some time, he admitted that.
Right.
Didn't rape him.
No.
He's accused of raping him. I don't know why did the first place did any one of them say this man raped me? Why would a hooker want to get tied up with a cop to say this dude raped me? Because all eyes are now on her, right? Why would she want to do that? Why would she? No, I take back that one. Why would she agree to do that?
Well, now you're getting into the meat of the case. Yeah, and what we do know, I can only say what we do know, the rest is alleged, is that the alleged victims all had extensive criminal records. And in law enforcement, what you do, as you know,
pressure them.
Well, you say, listen, if you give me the goods on somebody, then I'll reduce your sentence. I'll get you out or whatever.
Give me something bigger than you are.
Yeah. They actually claimed at one point that they believed they had Jack the Ripper. But let me go back to his initial.
How small thinking is that? I'm sorry.
The original case was an operation to catch people, and it caught about, I think, 10, 12 people. One was, I think, a county commissioner of another county.
Oh, sting operation on drugs. On
prostitution. Yeah, sting up, yeah. And from what I understand, they all they dismissed it or they all pled guilty to a misdemeanor and,
moved
on. What happened to Kevin, and again, these are some of the things that I hope, if there's an attorney out there that wants to take this case, call Rayford, because it's a slam dunk.
We're talking about civil
absolutely
now.
it would be.
Civil.
I'd own it. DA and sheriff's office.
Kelly, she's got her head screwed on straight. She has to deal with all sides of the law and all sides of people and all that sort of good stuff all the time. She was a little incensed by this whole thing when she first heard it, and I remember that.
Did you believe it at first, though? I said on the TV last night, I said I heard he was charged with it, law enforcement, we automatically believe
we always assume that he's guilty because he was
I
arrested.
did not, but
See,
I
that's
have
the other side.
a reason because of a situation a client went through here in Onslow. So I absolutely have learned doing the job I do. I don't automatically, and this sounds awful to say, married to a retired federal agent, I don't always believe law enforcement, and that's all I'll say.
I think just because you're married to Robin, that's why.
Yeah.
I used to.
So, yeah.
I've always felt, as I told a judge one time, just before he kicked me off the jury, before we got started. Is there anything that you would know about this case that would cause you to form an opinion as to the guilt or innocence of the man, Your Honor? Am I supposed to be perfectly honest? Yes, sir. If he wasn't guilty, we wouldn't have arrested him. Oh, Lord. But anyway, that's the mentality of cops.
Of cops, yeah. Well, I had the conversation with his father.
His father felt the same way, probably.
No, we were having this conversation. He said, hell, maybe he did it. You know?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you something I just want to know. And I know a lot of scrutiny has been placed on the law enforcement officer, one particular one in this case. Explain to me how prosecutors, assistant ADAs, paralegals, whoever, didn't look at all this stuff and say, hold up, or was this simply a case, as it is a lot of time, I will do whatever I can for that W?
Well, a lot of them are so busy, they trust law enforcement.
Yep.
Okay.
Implicitly.
Yeah. And I remember, you develop, when I was an FBI agent, you develop relationships with magistrates and judges.
And they would do pretty much anything you asked them to do.
I mean, you'd have to go in and explain, the probable cause for a warrant. You'd sit down, though. It wouldn't be, hey, John, how's the family? I have this thing. And so you do develop. And if you have a reputation of being a good agent or cop,
Right.
they just try, and they're busy.
Yeah.
They have more cases that they can try.
Even at the magistrate's level on a downtown Friday night on a pay weekend in Jacksonville way back when, you go into the magistrate because you're going to stand in line and wait for the magistrate to say, is all the stuff you're going to tell me the truth? Yes, sir. Warrant, done.
Yeah.
Go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it took about that long.
Yeah.
Now, was he charged in Onslow with anything? Tell me how the Onslow connection came into play.
The way I understand that, and that's interesting. First of all,
It's confusing.
the three victims, alleged victims, initially stated they didn't know each other. And that was proven. They all knew each other.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have that as the premise, that they knew each other, and so then you have what we understand, the lead detective somehow getting a statement from an alleged victim in Onslow. There were two in Craven and one in Onslow.
Well, he had some rank. He was a captain, I think, right?
Lieutenant.
Lieutenant?
Yeah.
Sure. Anyway, he had some pretty good
I
rank.
think he was a lieutenant.
Yeah, and then he was head of the division.
Right.
Yeah. So once he had, and then he had sometimes what happens in bad law enforcement, I'm not saying he was a bad law enforcement agent, once you get your narrative, you will prove the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And once he had one victim, two victims, he said, well, third victim, now I have Jack the Ripper.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I
The
understand,
blinders come on.
well, you'll do everything then to prove that, because now you've committed yourself, and you can't just say, my bad. You know, and I know agents have gotten in that predicament. So what then he had to do, which also bothers me, and I think Dave brought it up last night, is that he was the primary witness at we were going to do a trial here in Onslow. Here's what they thought. The two Craven County cases, they just kept continuing that.
Mm-hmm.
They believed their best chance of winning was the victim in Onslow County. And so we got right up to jury selection. And the day before jury selection, they have motion hearings. So the lead detective from Craven County was the only witness. So in other words, I'm a detective in Onslow County.
Not your case.
Well, it is my case.
I mean, you didn't build it.
No, you didn't build it, and you didn't even. I don't know what happened.
Yep.
I don't know how much investigation, but anyway. So he testifies, and I can't quote it. I don't know if you have it here. But at the end of his testimony, just at a motion hearing, there was no jury. The jury selection was the next day. The judge said words to the effect that.
I forgot exactly, but it was great. You don't have a case here. I don't see. If you got anything else, I forgot exactly what it was.
He said words to the effect about the credibility.
The credibility of the officer.
Yeah.
And that whole case then was tainted.
But that goes back to what my question is. So why did Onslow County, if you're saying this was brought in Onslow County,
By Craven County.
but using Onslow County district attorneys,
Yeah.
And that goes to my question.
And ADA, yeah.
What's happening over at the Onslow County District Attorney's Office that no one saw that this is some crap case?
You know, that is, I've been saying that. Did they ever look at that? I don't think they ever
They won't
really
look at
examined
it. Not for a case like that.
the attorney.
Well, that says a lot about their integrity.
No,
I don't
no,
want to
no,
hear
for-
about high caseloads.
For a little
Because every
case,
case is important.
for a little case, you quite often you will go into a courtroom for a little case, but they needed a conviction. You'll go into a courtroom with a little case, and here that's might be the first or second time you've even looked at it.
I will say, I mean, I
As an
understand what
ADA.
Kelly's saying, but on the other hand, this murder case that.
But
trial
that's their
number
job.
two-
I don't give two craps
I
about a
know,
murder
but
case.
what
That's
I'm
their job.
saying is law enforcement's trust law enforcement officers.
They do.
And DAs trust other DAs.
They do.
And if you come into the office and say, I have this case, this is the evidence I have, they're just going to take it for granted. But before you go to trial, like John said, you have to have motions, you have to have voir dires, you have to have all this stuff that is put out to see what you can and can't testify to in a case like that. So once they got into this motion hearing, that's when they realized they didn't have the evidence. Onslow County is just relying on Craven, and they're not feeling Craven's evidence, so therefore they didn't go through the
But
charges,
to get
right?
to that part, you still got to go through the evidence.
Absolutely.
Bottom
Should've
line,
done it.
it should have
Should've
never.
done it.
Onslow
But it
County looks like a
depends
bunch
on-
of no. They look like
It
bubbling
depends
babies.
on what kind of evidence Craven gave to Onslow, and then once you
Yeah.
go through the motions, you find out this
You don't
evidence.
look at the evidence when you go through the motion. They should have done that before it ever went to the motion part.
Well, I agree, but a lot of it depends on what they're giving you. And Craven gave them a box of toys.
But they should have been.
Well,
My point is, Lee, that should have been noticed when that file came over from Craven before they ever walked into that courtroom, wasting everybody's time.
Well, if you watch the trial I'm watching right now and saw what some of these highway patrol, that the time that's been wasting accusing a woman of something
Oh,
that
she's guilty.
stop it. Their evidence and their investigation is so bad, but yet it went higher and higher and higher and higher. And I can see what you said the last time that you were here, how evidence can be manipulated or made
Massaged.
to be more massaged is a good word.
It's
so-
not just the evidence that is
You gotta
presented,
get
it's
it
the
to
stuff
court.
that they leave out.
Yeah.
If they don't include
I'm
all the
correct.
Oh, trust me, I
information,
just sat through a very serious
if they
trial.
don't, if they don't,
Trust
if
me.
the, if,
Mhm.
if
I saw
whatever
Ross Napkins.
officer or agency leaves out key elements here, then nobody knows to even ask about those questions, ask questions about that. If they leave it out, it's not there.
Let me give you a good point that you're all talking about. DNA.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it was the victim in Onslow said she was forcibly raped horribly, and they took her to a hospital and did DNA and everything. And the detective never took Kevin's DNA to see if it matched.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what Kevin told. I think we discussed that
Yep.
too. He
Yes.
talked about that. So if you think about that, that's exactly the example you're saying. I don't want it
It's
to match.
what they leave out.
Yeah.
That would have cleared it.
Yeah.
So where's that?
Well, you don't. That's right. You don't want to be.
You don't know about it.
If discovery is ever given, if I'm an attorney, and I get discovery on this case, they have no defense. Because the other thing, cruel and unusual punishment is Sixth Amendment.
Yeah.
Or Eighth Amendment. But anyway,
That's not supposed to be
So-
punishment in jail. You're supposed to be waiting trial.
so to keep him in a cell, he said 48 hours, then they got an hour.
Yeah, it's wrong.
yeah.
That's just terrible.
For 18 months or 15 months, most people would break. I went back to Vietnam with two POWs.
There's a reason they would break.
Yeah, I went back to Vietnam in 2015 with two POWs.
Really?
Yeah, we went back.
I don't think you told me that one.
Yeah, we went back as the College of the Ozarks. We mentored students. There was about 6 or 7 of us. Medal of Honor recipient Doc Bauer, Navy Corpsman, two POWs, the company commander of Natran, the Army, the movie We Were Young and Soldiers.
Okay.
And so we went back, and I spent a lot of time with these two POWs. And they both said the same thing. They said, when you first get captured, the NVA would segregate you and then torture you and then tell you, your people back home, your girlfriends, and they told me that was the worst part of their 5 and 6 years as being POWs. They said, because once they got in general population and they talked to the other POWs, they got into a routine, however bad it was.
Sure.
But the worst part, and the torture they were telling me about, was the initial phase where they were segregated from everybody else.
Not knowing.
Yeah, not knowing. So Kevin's in a cell for almost 6 years. Never got into a place to play cards or go to the library or, I mean, I would have broke. I mean, I think I would have broke, or I would have escaped. I would have done something.
We would have worked on the plan. I can tell you that.
Yeah, we would have been. You got the spoon.
Yeah, let's get the spoon. I need
got
another
you.
spoon. This one's worn out.
The knife and the cake.
Well, you don't know. When I posed that, people are like, I didn't do that. You don't know.
You don't know what you'll do.
But Kevin was steadfast. I'm not, and he could have been out 3 years.
More power to him.
Well, stubbornness. I don't know what this is.
Well, I know. What what is he doing now? We're going to get him back in there one day.
He's
We'll give him some time.
he's working in a machine shop.
Is he?
He's not that that's bad, but here's a guy that had a top secret clearance and is a middle school teacher, and he likes what he's doing, but he should not be there. And the other thing is, he must get his reputation back, and the only way to do that is civil suit.
That's going to be it. You're going to have
I
to.
agree.
Now the burden of proof is on you.
I
It
would
should
hope
never have to be on the victim or the person who's accused. The burden of proof is on the state. The state did not live up to it. Now the burden of proof is on you to prove that they didn't even have a case to begin with. That's going to be tough.
Now, one sort of, it's not direct evidence, but it's certainly circumstantial evidence. What happened to this detective that was the main lead detective?
I know. Didn't he get busted way down?
Well, we think, right? But
He has no rank. He's went from lieutenant to a patrol guy, SR, school resource officer. Nothing wrong with that, except that what happened between lieutenant and there.
well, just so you know, in the FBI, if you have been found to be untruthful, and it could be anything from, I had a friend, he goes golfing, and his supervisor said, "Where were you?" He said, "I was working a case." So back then, the guy just wrote a little note in his file, like he was untruthful, no big deal, no
He
big
lied.
deal. So now what happens after the Mark Fuhrman, the OJ case, is the prosecution, if they're prosecuting, gets your personnel folder, the whole folder,
Yep.
medical, everything. So he couldn't testify anymore because
If you lie one time, now every officer who goes before a judge, a magistrate at any level is still a judicial official. And he raises his hand, puts the other one on the Bible. Is this stuff you're telling me true? Uh-huh. And then it's not. Every defense lawyer, every time you ever come up, every defense lawyer has your file if you ever work another case.
you can't testify.
And the first thing they will ask you is, Officer Legato, Agent Legato, have you ever lied under oath? Oh, crap.
Well, what about all the previous cases this guy had?
Well,
Is
that-
anybody looking at them?
They won't do that because that is an admission. If that would open up a
Right.
Pandora's box, they're
Oh,
going to have to do it, though.
Yeah,
As
they should.
Okay, everybody that has ever been arrested and convicted
By this,
by this individual's workload, and he's the primary, every one of them has an opportunity to take that thing back before the courts.
so attorneys, this is a class action suit.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
Well, I
possible.
think it's way above just the
And-
officer.
I think it goes
all
back
the
to what
way.
I said, the DA's office.
Well,
It
They-
goes
they-
all the way up.
We
but they
cannot,
bear some blame.
we cannot blame the entire sheriff's office or
No.
the entire district
No.
attorney's
No.
office. You got an ADA somewhere
That's what
down
I'm
the
saying,
line.
the one on it.
You may
Yeah.
have a clerk typist, you may
Yep.
have a magistrate, you may have another deputy, or you may somebody, whatever.
Mhm.
They got caught up in it,
I was at one.
trusting somebody with rank, somebody
But
with
let me
authority.
tell you something.
I mean, they do that.
But they should, it's still their job. And you know, when I have clients come to me and they say, well, I have this diagnosis of what depression or PTSD or whatever.
Sure.
I don't take on face value that just because Rayford gave you this diagnosis 5 years ago, I reassess them. Why? Because I'm going to trust what is happening here and now. These ADAs, it's the same thing. I don't care if Jesus himself was over there giving you this information. You still have a job to do, and it's still your responsibility to go through every bit of that evidence.
Sure.
Period.
Let me give you one example where it's affected Kevin. And I think Dave Jordan showed it last night, the continuances.
Yes.
So
22 state
22. I was at
do
one.
that.
Well, I was at one.
How
And well, what happened is this: the Kevin's attorney had gone before the court arguing speedy trial maybe 4 or 5 times,
Mhm.
and the ADA got up at this one particular one where I was at, and the judge said, "Well, what about this speedy trial? What about how come he hasn't had a speedy trial?" And we had all these continuances, and the ADA said the majority of those continuances were Kevin's,
That's a lie.
according to what the records.
I think that's what I saw.
Yeah. So
Oh,
now,
my.
okay, if that is, think about this. By saying without checking, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. She just said it. That resulted in Kevin staying in prison X amount of time.
Correct.
Because the judge, once he heard that it was the defendant
Yep.
asking for continuing, said, "Okay, continue."
You know, I've been in state court again many times on criminal things, right? And they defend it. Well, yeah, okay. It is kind of like your insurance company. When they deny your claim, you're going to appeal it, right? And then you're going to go again. And you go, when move for a continuance, and because we're going to hope that this officer is going to fail to show up for the next trial date, then next time they get judges that I work with, judges that I dealt with, I don't ever remember. They always said, you know what, this is number 2 of 3 that you get maximum. They generally had a 3-strike thing.
Yeah, but listen, what Kelly said is true too.
Even defendants.
But they have a relationship. The judge, just like you had with the magistrate, they work with that DA.
Yeah.
And so if you're believable and you come up, if you've had a good, and I'm not saying the DA did it on purpose, but she should have checked without just saying it.
Sure. Somebody told me that they've already had these guys are the ones that are continuing this thing. They request all these continuances. That's what I was told. And somebody may have told her that. I don't know.
Well, that's why you need a civil trial to bring this all out. People could actually go to jail as a result of this.
That would be apropos.
I'm not saying,
Befitting.
I'm here for it.
Well, it's going to be interesting to hear what
There's a-
Dave says, what the DAs had to
There's
say.
a-
No, I will.
There's a
That's
fight,
what
yeah.
I definitely want to hear.
I could tell you what they're going to say now. I have no idea. Blah, 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 blah. They're going to,
It'll be a lot of circle talking.
Yeah,
after
double
that.
talk.
Yeah.
we'll look into it. We'll look into it.
Maybe because they know there's a civil suit coming, and
They have to know.
they're not going to put anything out there that can be used in that
Yes.
civil trial against them. It's going to be tonight. I don't think we're going to have much said.
I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
wait and see.
Let's hope.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
an
here for
interesting case that I've never seen one like this. I hear, and from time to time, it's like I will ask a judge. I'll ask the sheriff here, how long has a guy's been in your jailhouse? The longest, we've had a couple of people in there for like 2 years, 2.5 years. They're waiting for a murder trial, and their attorneys are trying to get all the evidence together. And, we also have 5 other people that are being tried for murder. And yes, they have to book out a whole week for a typical murder trial. That's just a standard one. If there's a really involved murder case, they may book out 2 weeks. And if they clear it in 3 days, they still got, oh God, we can't schedule another one in its place.
But that's another thing
That's
can
a
check.
problem.
That's another thing they can check. If they're
Oh,
saying
yeah, absolutely.
this was a murder case and there wasn't,
First of all, I'd like to, I know Duplin County, let's just take that one because we know Ernie Wright has to spend a lot of time over there. And
That would be
death
Ernie Lee.
cases.
Ernie Lee.
Ernie Lee. Why did I keep
It's
doing that?
okay.
Ernie Lee spends a lot of time in Duplin County for murders. Used to be in Onslow County. There was a murder a week.
Yeah.
Seemed like it back in the day. But so I know that in certain counties it's going to be a problem. I don't remember hearing that about Craven County so much. Lenore County was a big time. Greenville, Pitt County had a bunch of murders.
Well, look, we Northerners watch TV.
Yeah,
Yeah. And one of the images, one of the sort of recurring themes in movies like Smokey and the Bandit is the Southern Sheriff, where you get caught and you in a heap of trouble, boy.
Yeah,
I mean, really, and that's something. These people that get elected and don't have to run.
I will tell you that the current sheriff of Craven County, the current sheriff of Onslow County, I know them both fairly well. And over in Carter County, I know him extremely well. They ain't the good old boy sheriffs of whatever that guy's name was.
Let me ask you a question then.
But some of the predecessors probably were.
Let me ask you a question then. You know them well. If you were one of the sheriffs of these counties right now, what would you do?
Hanging. I would have already had a big session, and probably would have been a lot of people would either be wishing they hadn't been hired, had never come on board, or they would actually be looking for a job, and there would be some severe disciplinary action. I'm going to take it that as a result of what happened, that I think, and they're not going to take, it's a personnel matter, so we're never going to find out exactly. A defense attorney to an attorney can if they take it to a civil case. What happened from lieutenant to this?
Do you realize the ramifications?
Oh God!
If they did that, if they went back and looked,
I know
there would be a national scandal in 2 counties.
Yes.
Where they'd have to look at every case.
Yes.
Every defense attorney. They'd have to review it. They'd have to investigate. So would you do that, knowing that your county would be embroiled
Yes.
in controversy for years?
Yeah, because both of these guys have got more integrity than probably most of the sheriffs of the rest of the state combined, because I know them. I also know some of the other sheriffs in the North Carolina, and I can say that without a doubt.
We'll see.
Yeah, well, one of them is a retired state trooper, and the other one has been in law enforcement and also worked at all levels.
They should be doing an investigation.
Absolutely.
If they're not,
I agree with that.
yeah, if they're not investigating, the Bureau has OPR.
Okay, now, in Onslow County, because the sheriff's office in Onslow County had very little involvement in this case to begin with, right? It kind of went, somebody signed off on it because somebody from another county came over and actually did the case. And whoever signed off on it in Onslow County, that's the person that they're going to have to take a look at and say, why'd you do this?
What were the questions you'd be asking if you were doing this investigation in Onslow?
What happened? That would be the first one. What in the heck happened here? Can you explain this? Is this the way you do other cases? Have you ever done another case like this? Why did you do it this way? Sorry. There's some
God.
severe lightning and some rumble of thunder out there.
Yes, God.
But I would want to know from that individual for my own edification, so I can say, we don't do it this way, and make sure that everybody understands we don't do it this way. And if there are other cases,
there you go.
And if there are other cases outstanding, has anybody else got something like this?
We had a stupid saying: "A burglar never strikes once."
That's right. You
So-
catch them. You don't ever catch them the first time either.
Right. So if this is loose and fast, and I'm not saying it is, how do we know that this isn't a recurring theme? And it could be a recurring theme of just incompetence, not any willful breaking of the
malice.
law. Just so that. But don't you think that this investigation would have to be outside?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, if I was the boss in charge, it would be internal first.
Well, yes, you could do
And then
both.
after I trim some fat from some people's backsides, then we could refer to other people I would call the State Bureau of Investigation
State-
because I would want them to clear my
Right.
department. Period. Bottom line.
Absolute. There you go.
I want them to clear everything else. If I got nothing to hide, I want to clear it up.
So what would they do? They would come in and do what?
I don't know how the Bureau works, but other than the typical
Well,
thing.
typical.
Civil rights
They would bring
group.
everybody up
Yep.
before, and there would be lots of interviews. That could be the biggest thing. They probably
Write them down.
they probably would already have the paperwork available to them, but they know what they're looking for by
Yeah.
the time.
Get a boat to get home.
Well, okay, so we would know the SBI would look at the law enforcement, but who would look at the ADAs?
That would
That-
also be the
they would-
SBI.
They would do,
SBI?
yeah, they,
Okay, they would
could
do that
they
too.
could do
Listen,
that, yeah.
we do, that's it, and that's a good point. People confuse, the FBI got embroiled in that, is the difference between investigation and prosecution. And what was going on with the FBI that really hurt them during this last thing is that the FBI does the investigation, but the Justice Department always put their fingers during the investigation.
That's
They're supposed to come out.
sometimes creates a problem.
Yeah.
Well, it is a problem because we investigate, you prosecute.
Yeah.
If you listen to every FBI director that goes before the confirmation hearing, they all say, now remember, everyone has been an attorney, and only two have been agents, one for 5 years, Louis Freeh and Clarence Kelly. I know, I work with the FBI. I understand the FBI, and they don't. They're prosecutors. We're investigators. It's two separate things, but they get involved during the investigation stage, and they always, not always, they often want you to do stuff that you wouldn't normally do. But when I was an agent, they didn't get involved in the case. In other words, I can open a case on the Clinton Foundation. But now, after Mueller and Comey, I can't open a case as an agent. I have to go to the Justice Department, which is political. The Attorney General is a political appointee, and say, can I open a case on the Clinton Foundation? This actually happened. The agents in New York tried to open a case on the Clinton Foundation. And I think Loretta Lynch,
James.
Loretta, whatever.
Loretta James.
When-
Letitia
Lin-
James.
Letitia.
No,
you're talking
I think
about-
it was
she's the
Loretta
agent.
Lynch.
Loretta Lynch was the
Attorney General.
AG, yeah.
She refused to let them open it.
Yep.
So right now, the FBI, you've taken their investigative abilities away. So what happened when I was an agent, I would investigate a case with no interaction with justice. I would complete the investigation, write a prosecutive report, put the evidence in there, then take it over.
During a case, quite often, because let's take a murder case. You got a big case, the investigating agency will ask the DA, what else am I going to need here? I want to make sure I don't screw up your case when it comes for you to prosecute. They will ask, is there anything else I need? And a DA or an ADA will quite often say, listen, you failed to get this, or you did not cross this T or dot this I. You need to do this. Make sure it's done before you complete the report and give it to me.
There's 3 boxes. You're absolutely right. 3 boxes they check.
Mhm.
I accept the case and will prosecute.
Got it.
Declination, I decline to prosecute, or you're right. Go get some more probable cause in this area.
That's it. Just to make sure everything is right.
Yeah.
So that's the way it's supposed to work. I don't know how this would work. I've got a feeling that some of that stuff never, in Oslo County, I have no clue over there. I just got a feeling that a lot of that slipped through the cracks here in Oslo County. That took somebody's word for it. It wasn't that big a case in real life.
I disagree with
I
you.
guess too.
Well, no.
I disagree
When you're
with
in
you.
Jacksonville, I'm talking about from a law enforcement standpoint. Otherwise, why didn't the Oslo Sheriff's Office investigate it instead of some Craven County deputy sheriff?
But you don't think that first-degree rape?
Oh, I know it is,
Yeah.
but apparently it wasn't so big. Craven County used it as a stepping stone, and that's all they were doing, trying to get a conviction so they could proceed over there.
Well-
That's my opinion.
Well, let me give you. Okay, let me put this
It's a
back.
serious crime.
Let me put this.
Crime.
You're the detective in Onslow County. What would you do?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Well, I said, well, wait a minute now. Who's handling this case? Did this crime occur in Oslo County? Yeah. Okay. Well, you can assist me with whatever you've got. That, but I'm going to be the lead investigator. I'm going to be handling it.
Why?
That's what I would do
Because
it's going to be my butt.
Yeah, right.
It's going to be my butt if anything goes bad, and my sheriff is going to take me to task if it goes bad.
So did the Onslow County investigator go talk to the prostitute that was accusing Kevin of
I
this?
have no idea.
See, we don't exactly
He didn't show up in
know.
court for the
Yeah.
trial.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
He did show up in court for the trial. He was in name only.
That is a
Personal
great
opinion.
point. I was at the hearing down here, and the only witness for that motion hearing was
Came from 40 miles
Craven
away.
County.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I'm wondering too. I thought, well, even if you have a cooperation, I would get myself familiar with the case to testify
Of course.
in my own county.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a judge saw through it.
Well, did it go past the motions hearing?
No, because what
See,
happened?
and that's why you
The
have
judge took
motions
care of
hearing.
it.
Yep.
The judge basically, and God bless the New USA who handled it. She didn't know. She got the case. She didn't have time to read it.
Yep.
They just sent her in. They just said, like, it's the Russian troops in the Ukraine. Charge. You go.
Right.
We know you're going to get shot up, but go ahead.
Mm.
And
I mean, I can see how this was. There was a plan. There was a plan in one guy's mind. I can slip this sucker through. Let me call one of my buddies over here. Just get him to sign off on it. I don't know how much experience he had. I don't know what his caseload was. I have no clue. I don't know who it was. But if he slipped it through and, okay, okay, go ahead. It's your case. You've got to handle it.
Was there an
If you-
indictment? There had to
If you
been
need me, call me. Well,
originally
no, they indicted him, I think, a couple weeks before the trial.
for Onslow.
Right.
For Onslow.
So-
What did they use as evidence to get the indictment?
That's a slam dunk. Whatever the guy from Craven
I
County
think
said.
Craven had a statement from the hooker, wasn't
But
it?
why? But this isn't Craven's jurisdiction. Why?
That's
didn't
why they
use
turned it
Onslow?
over to Onslow. What happened allegedly happened in Onslow.
I understand that, but what did Onslow do?
Onslow, I'm assuming, took what Craven gave them,
To a
and
grand
I'm
jury.
assuming that they talked to the hooker, and I'm assuming they felt like they probably had enough evidence. I don't know. It depends on what Onslow did.
I don't know.
I mean,
I
thank
don't-
goodness for the motions here.
I
Throw it
think
all
that
out.
the Craven County guy did all the talking. He did the investigating with the hooker, the victim, right?
He was the only witness
Right.
when
Yeah,
they.
that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
He was the only- you're right. And,
This was in name only, a piece of paperwork.
well, but he was used to getting on the stand and telling this story. It was 6 years old,
Uh-huh.
and he
You'll
was
believe
never
it.
he was never telling it to his own people. He was telling it to now. I guess it was a superior court. Because,
Yep.
yeah.
And that was like, well, this is not flying. I can see the judge now.
I wish I had the exact words, but I have them at home.
Yeah.
Sounds like all the shenanigans started in Craven County, and it was one trying to cover what may have happened here, and it just escalated. And then they were sending it out to other counties, hoping that maybe they could get another county for conviction, because it sounds like by this time they knew they had violated this guy's rights, and so we're just going to keep going till we can try to get him in prison.
Great point, and that's exactly what Kevin believes happened. They just
Mhm.
they wanted to keep him in jail because the plan was, if you're in jail long enough, you'll plead to something.
Right.
And they offered him. They went down from from rapes to what was that thing? Bestiality.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's unnatural.
Unnatural.
sex.
Yeah, unnatural something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's definitely got a Sixth Amendment. He needs to get a civil rights lawyer.
He-
I don't care if you have to go get Jesse Jackson or anybody.
I don't. Everyone.
Get anybody, and I would file a civil
I
rights suit.
sure would.
I think the minute they file a suit, whatever they ask for, somebody going to be settling as quickly as they can. The insurance companies are going to be settling as quickly as they
Absolutely.
can.
Whether he's
I would, if they look at this case,
You know why too?
crap.
They took Kevin at the prime of his life
That
and
is
career.
screwing up
Mhm.
that screws up his Social Security because of his
Everything.
earning power between the time they arrested him and the time he turned 65. Can you imagine how about that earning power would be and what the Social Security benefits would be?
But
We all know about that
it's,
now.
it's not over.
Uh-huh.
This is 2016. It's 2009 years. Kevin's in a machine shop.
I know, but that's
Right.
the
Yeah, but-
salary that they're going to be looking
Right.
at
Right.
for that Social Security benefits.
Yeah, and whether he was
and
found
it was missing 8 years of employment, 7 years of employment.
whether he was found guilty of any of this or 100% proven innocent, his Sixth Amendment right was violated.
Yeah, speedy trial. Well, the
So-
6th and 8th, cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah.
Just being in one place, the 6
For
years.
no
That's a good
reason.
point.
Was he a problem child? Did he have any infractions in the
Hey.
jailhouse? No.
No.
Did he get out there and try to escape? No. He's not you or me.
That's true.
we have been in problem. We'd still be there.
Yeah.
But that, I mean, seriously, he was not a problem child. He did not do anything that I have seen that they have shown me that warranted the treatment that he got inside a jail.
Wait, didn't you say his bond was like $1 million?
$5 million.
$5 million. That's right. The Eighth Amendment protects American
excessive
citizens
bond.
accused of crime from being held on an amount of bail that is so excessive as to prevent them from gaining release from confinement to defend their
That's
cases.
beyond
At
excessive.
$5 million.
You should look up cases of famous people that did bonds. I did it one time. It was hilarious. I mean, I think some of the most egregious cases in history are $2 million bonds, murders.
Yeah, I know. We've had murderers here for $500,000.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Did you say now they have dropped all the charges?
Yes.
Everything's cleared.
Except
That's
the
what I thought.
misdemeanor. He had
Something that I forgot what that was, but it was up.
So is there no way to reinstate his security clearance?
Oh, big
Yeah.
tough. Big tough.
That-
How would you get? No.
Yeah.
he doesn't think so. But hopefully, he'll get enough money out of this that it's not
He
going to be
doesn't
an
need
issue. Yeah. He wants to clear his name. And let me tell you something. You were the first one in the 9 years that took the first step in clearing his name. Because he kept saying, I want to clear. And I don't know, we were thinking of strategies. But anyway, we had an attorney in Raleigh. He put us on the string for like 2 years and then declined the case, even though he said he was going to take it. So if any attorneys are out there, get a hold of Rayford. He'll get a hold of me.
I'm going to tell you, you can say that all you want, but the only reason, because, I mean, the guy's been accused of this, and yes, he picked up a hooker, yes, he's got to be guilty of something here. In my normal mind, my normal frame of mind, that's the way I would have looked at it. Okay?
That's what I did to
He's a
begin
bad
with.
guy.
So I don't.
He's a
I
bad
did
guy.
to
He's
begin
guilty.
with.
I mean, that's the way cops do.
No, I agree. I said
Tell
that.
you,
Say I don't do that.
I trust you implicitly. I know you. I don't care if you tell me the sun's shining outside. I'm going to tell you, you're right now.
Well,
I
listen
will
to
take
the
your word over
story.
what I'm looking at.
Listening
So-
to the story of what happened at the hotel and about how the police showed up and all that at first I was like,
Oh, is that the sting?
But after that, listening to other stuff coming through, I was like, oh, no, It sounds like to me that somebody messed up and they're trying to cover up.
Well, they had the wrong guy on the
They had the
phone
wrong guy,
also, yeah.
definitely.
Well, let me just go back to the wrong guy thing, too. When they started saying, oh, well, you got to have a lot of bond because Kevin Smith, you got a record. That record looks like crap. I ran a record yesterday. There were 109 people with that name. I could not use anything that I found because I didn't have a DOB. I didn't even bother to touch it.
If that happened, say what we're talking. That happened, and the case is over. But what does Kevin think happened with running the name Kevin Smith?
Oh, he was guilty of something. A bunch.
Well, no, what I think is they use that to justify.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Exactly. That way he brought that up.
If that happened, the case is over. The case is over. Kevin won.
Right.
Because if-
Yeah, of course.
Tell them what we're talking about. There's 106 Kevin Smiths in North
I was
Carolina.
going to, well,
There was.
come
Yeah, I
on,
remember
computer,
that.
hurry up.
And Kevin thinks they may have used the arrest records of other Kevin Smiths. We don't-
It has to be this somewhere. It's in the records that that's what they did. to justify that bond in case that.
Right. You can't justify that
No,
bond
you
for a
cannot.
person that's not a flight risk or danger to society.
Yeah,
Was
but
your
if
position-
if you got him that has been arrested 40 times for trafficking narcotics and he spent time in the prison,
And his name is,
Kevin Smith, and okay, you got that guy right there, but let me get hold of him. Come on, Kevin, hurry up.
Well, he even mentioned that when he was on the show with us, that he felt like that they took some of the arrests that were showing for Kevin Smith and were trying to apply it towards him to
There-
give them reason to hold
Hold
him.
on to your drawers here. In North Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
convictions for Kevin Smith's 141 convictions, 141 Kevin Smiths in North Carolina have been convicted of criminal
Right.
actions at the Department of Corrections.
let me tell you something. If that is the case, and I'm not saying it is,
I'm not saying
That-
it is, but
no, if they did that,
Yep.
if they did that, that's a crime. That's a crime.
Sure.
That's civil rights. It's a whole bunch of, it's a crime. And I'd be worried if that's what happened. I don't know if that is it.
well, all you got to do if you're seeking, you go up and you tell your friendly magistrate or whoever, this guy, look at his record here. I could print this out and I could take this in there like this long,
Yeah.
141 names. This guy, Kevin Smith, I don't know how many of these are him, but you know what? He's bound to have a bunch of these. We better make sure he doesn't leave.
Ooh,
Now, John, let me ask you.
yeah.
If you were to run a record check on him today, Rayford, the right Kevin Smith that we're talking about,
I'd have to
is it going to show anything?
I don't know. That's interesting.
Is it going to show
You know
no-
what his birth date is?
No.
No. I could run these one at a time. First of all, I'd eliminate the
everything
black
been wiped
African Americans and the all of those. I would
Chinese
eliminate all of that. Yeah, whatever else there is.
There's an
But,
American Indian on there.
huh?
There's an American Indian on there too.
He's American. Yeah, I know. See that, but then we got it black. So black. I could
I'm just
eliminate-
wondering, did
I
they
go through and
wipe
eliminate.
his record
But
clean?
there are a ton of white males. Then I'd go back to the birth
I don't think.
approximate year and one of them. Okay, so 55, 56, 57, 58, 59.
Lee asked about his reputation, wipe it clean. You could never wipe it clean.
Oh, no.
Oh, true,
it's-
true. As far as his
You're-
reputation.
There are people going to think,
There's people going to say, yeah, we knew.
You
Yeah,
never
they
went,
just couldn't
you never
prove
even
it.
go to,
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
didn't, you
yeah.
didn't even go to trial to prove your innocence.
Just like
That's
they
what
did.
people will say.
You're right.
That's what employers will say.
Remember you said that.
Uh-huh. I hear you.
I'm serious. That's what people will say.
We've been
Well, I know she's guilty.
Stop. John would argue all the details, and especially about the Massachusetts State police officer who was a lieutenant who was fired because the FBI did an investigation into his conduct in this trial and what he did to
But
this
that was
woman.
Comey doing the investigation.
No, if you ever delved into this whole thing, I know exactly what you'd be saying.
Whatever Lee said.
Oh, you'd be saying it should have never gone to court, just like in Oslo.
She
it
was
should have
drunk.
never
There was a
gone to
party,
court.
and she ran over her boyfriend in the front yard and killed him.
She did.
That happens.
Yeah,
He was a police officer, and it
See?
ended up in the lawn of another police officer's house.
Well,
And
they've been having a
nobody
party.
ever went in to check on the police officer's family inside.
Well,
Nor
the-
did they ever come out to
the-
check
the
on what was
action-
happening in their
yeah,
yard.
The action was outside. There was nothing inside. They didn't care about
And
that.
the guy that looks like he was attacked by a dog, and the people who owned the dog rehomed the dog right away. Then they sold their house under market value because it could have been that the murder had happened in the basement. But they replaced the floor before they sold the house.
John, don't even get into it.
Sounds
Just-
like fiction.
And
Yeah,
then all the
pretty
phone
much.
call, it would make a great story for you. You could write a good book.
She'd be guilty
I
at the
think he's
end.
got a lot of material in this card.
Oh, sure he does.
This one is a book,
Mhm.
but not a fiction.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary. I used the term on the newscast last night, Turkey or Iran. And if you think about movies like that,
Yes, absolutely. When you disappear from sight, basically you're missing. You disappear from sight, except limited access by anybody for 6 years. And you're in your own county. You're in North Carolina. This crap happened in the 70s in a country far, far away you're familiar with. I'm not. Vietnam, things like that happened then. But some of those prisoners during that time actually had Jane Fonda helping them out, and they had other people. They had TV cameras and all sorts of good stuff. What did he get?
He got, I mean, I still can't believe it. And for a majority of the time, he had public defenders. And the public defender system in North Carolina
Sucks.
Yeah, it really does.
It's lacking. I don't know that there's a better way to do it yet, because there needs to be a better way to make a good public defender system, but it's going to cost money, and there's the problem.
Well, but Kevin would write letters, and he had one. And this is Kevin telling me that he had one public defender that he wrote 10 letters to during a year, and the public defender never answered the letter and never met him. Now,
Overloaded.
yeah, but do you get money for? Yeah, you get money for being a
Yes, they
public
get
defender.
paid by the state.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, this thing could go in a lot of different directions.
Oh, it could.
Goes back to
There
what I
needs to
said,
be some
people doing their
overhauls
jobs.
done. There needs definitely be some overhauls with oversight.
You need to write
There
a
needs to
note.
be oversight.
Here's another thing. You cannot, I keep saying about trying to get an attorney for Kevin. No attorney in Onslow or Craven County would touch this case.
Well, I'm sure they won't.
They won't.
Why would they?
Cowards.
Yeah.
I agree with
Well,
you.
they got a lot. They got everything to lose.
But the
Because
justice.
They're going to be
Yep.
going
Justice.
before
It's
the
integrity.
courts and dealing with the
Yep.
law
Justice.
enforcement and the DAs and everything. And the courts, no, they're not going to do it.
Isn't that why they became attorneys
That's
to begin
right.
with, for
Oh,
justice?
Oh,
On a fat paycheck.
And I want to be Miss America because I'm in favor of
so
world peace. Is
listen,
that
so
true?
you're saying that an attorney took this, they're going to be unpopular.
Unpopular, impossible.
Are
to
you
check.
pissed that this happened?
I am.
If you were an attorney in Onslow County, would you be
I'm a
pissed?
different person than
There's got to be somebody listening that's a different person. I would be pissed if I had to move away from here. I would at least give Kevin, his day in court.
I would
I
have
agree.
satisfaction at the end of my career, if nothing else, as a lawyer.
But I've been told by people, no attorney will touch
Well,
this
I'm
case.
sure they will.
All right.
Because it's going to take all of their time. You understand?
It's not about
Because it's
that.
going against the
if-
court officials. It's going against law
If
enforcement.
they've got
Why?
if they
So
got a
what?
caseload,
You're right.
if they've got other clients, they're going to be, they're not going to be able to take care of their other clients.
I don't think it's about that.
Listen, I
They're going to lose
can't.
money until they win.
I'll tell you a situation I got myself into that's not exactly, but somewhat. I'm working a big drug case out of LA, and I have an informant, and he's giving me information, but he was involved. And so he said, like they all said, what can you do for me?
Absolutely.
So I said,
Give
listen,
me somebody bigger than you are.
well, I said, if we make the arrest or seize the drugs, I'll put you in for misprision of a felony, which is a federal offense. All it means is that you had information, knowledge of a crime, and didn't report it, as opposed to multi-key
Yep.
conspiracy. So he did. He gave me information. I seized about, I don't know, $600,000 of drug money the night before it was supposed to go back to LA, and arrested 2 people from Los Angeles. So now comes the prosecution part. And I told my supervisor that's what I promised. But we're not allowed to promise. You know that.
Oh, yeah.
We're not allowed to promise.
Well, you can. You can promise all you want, but it's not going to necessarily.
Well, except I promised this guy.
Oh,
So they said, you can't do that. We have to put him in as a conspiracy. He'll go to jail for 10 years. And I said, I'm telling you, I promise him. So they have this meeting with me, and they say, you realize you didn't have the authority. And I said, yeah, but I did.
not the first time you've done it.
Yeah. And we got the drugs. I mean, he would have been, yeah. So he hires an attorney, and we have a meeting, and they said, you're going over to that meeting, and you're going to say you didn't make the promise or something. And so we get over there, and they're having, well, agents are not allowed to promise, blah, blah. I said, but I did. but I did promise him that.
That's a Legato thing.
Yeah, but I did. And at that point, a government official promised. So, I mean, I didn't get in real trouble because we got the drugs, but I think I got written up for false promises.
I'm sorry. The heat of the battle, heat of the moment. I had a bunch of dope over here. I had $600,000 in cash. I had 2 guys on the hook in LA that I was taking down. I had to do something right now. I didn't have time to send it up for a committee meeting.
I think I said that's exactly.
I know, but that's basically the bottom line.
I said, we got the drugs and we got the drug dealers, and they were major dealers.
Excuse me. Hold right there. Don't do anything. I got to call the DA and say, hey, is it okay if I shoot this guy? He's got a gun aimed at me. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's what it amounts to. You got to do what you got to do at the time you got to do it.
Well, yeah, I guess my point is, it would have been easy for me to say I didn't exactly say that. I said words that.
No, I'm not going to hang that dude out to dry. You wouldn't do it.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. And he's such a nice guy.
They'll just have to get over it.
It reminds me
I'm begging you for forgiveness.
My first big arrest in Memphis. They were playing with the new agent.
We should have been working together at some time.
We'd be in jail. They said,
wow.
We have a fugitive.
Been good.
We have a fugitive warrant for a guy in Arkansas across the bridge, and you could go get him, new agent. I said, all right. Yeah. So I get the warrant. The guy had a construction company, and he had polio. He had a big brace on his leg, and it was a white collar crime. I was a new agent. And so I'm so proud. I arrest this guy, cuff him, and I'm talking to this guy. He's a family man, Christian, going back. And when I got back, I'm marching him through the office like a big game hunter. And they all knew the guy. And he's limping with his leg. I mean, he got out on bond right away. But you arrest people, and some of them are decent human beings other than, the crime they committed. Like I met guys when I was undercover for years with the mafia that were great guys.
They were in the business.
They were in the business.
My cousin, late cousin,
My
so
cousin Benny.
nothing can be held against him. He was a ranking cop in Texarkana, Texas. Texarkana, Texas, and Texarkana, Arkansas is one town, but it's divided by the state line. You got 2 different jurisdictions, of course, both city and state. He said many a time they had a warrant or they had an arrest. They had this dude over across the state line, Arkansas. He'd run back over to us across the state line. Now, if we arrest him and he's going to say, I need to be extradited. I'm going to fight extradition. He said, we took him to the bridge and said, he's coming your way. Where's he going to go? Jump overboard? That was the way they worked it.
That's brilliant.
I thought so. He told me that. I'm sitting back. I said, God, I wish we had a bridge like that.
So I don't know where this thing's going.
I don't know either, but Kevin,
thank you.
Kevin, you're probably laughing your butt off right now.
No,
listening.
Well, I hope so. I don't know if he's listening.
Well, anyway,
he's got to work.
You got to. Yeah, it's going to be work, but just keep your job. What kind of metal work is he doing?
It's welding and something.
Okay.
I've been in his place. I mean, it's Kevin isn't enjoying, I guess, 6 years in a cell. He's out there, he's busy. He's got a girlfriend. You met the girlfriend.
Yep.
He's doing stuff, got a dog. Yeah.
If it comes to the girlfriend or the dog.
Oh, that not even going to talk about.
Don't want to do that one again.
Yeah.
That was a dirty trick. Was she ever arrested for it?
No.
That's a felony.
Well, she could probably say the dog was, I don't know.
Yeah, she can say what she wants. Prove it. It would be I would be a vindictive individual. You know how that is.
Really?
Yeah. I'm hoping that somebody, I'm sure he's actively pursuing it. There's got to be somebody somewhere, a lawyer type, even a retired or getting ready to retire lawyer who really wants to take something and have, to me, it would be a fun case. It'd be serious, but my God, the elements are there to make this enjoyable.
Let me ask you a question on that. If you took this case, you're an Onslow or Craven County attorney, and you took this case, and I was a lawyer or a magistrate or a judge or a cop in Onslow or Craven County, would you think that attorney was doing something wrong? Or
Absolutely not in this particular case, because number one, every cop around here should look at this whole case. Every cop should look at this, and any investigator should look and say, "Oh, they got him here after 6 years, and they said charges dismissed."
Well, what I'm asking you is,
and
would
that
you
would
say,
tell me something all by itself.
would you be angry at that attorney that took the case?
No.
Well, then why wouldn't you? I'm talking to attorneys now.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you take this
Well,
case?
because the attorneys right now, first of all, you're going to have one that can dig, right? So he's going to have some credibility and some experience and some resources. I don't know how much of his resources that he's got, if he's got a law firm, that he can take away from the other clients, because they don't have one client. That is an issue.
That's an issue.
That's a
But
big issue.
let me
He's
tell you
got a
something.
livelihood, not just for himself, but all of the people that work for him.
You only had to do two things in this case. I'll solve the case for you, the civil case. Prove that they used other Kevin Smiths for his,
All done.
and then go with the amendment, constitutional amendments, and
Yeah.
and like then you have it.
It's that part, and you can throw all that other stuff in there,
Yeah.
from lieutenant down to whatever, and that shows you a pattern.
For a $5 million bond.
Well, let's
And-
put you on the jury now. Let's talk to the jurors. No, I guess we can't do that. But you're in the jury. You see Kevin Smith up there,
Mm-hmm.
who spent 6 years in jail, no speedy trial, excessive bond, cruel and unusual punishment, and you think, holy hell, I'm going to give punitive damages.
In an hour and 15 minutes that we've been talking,
Exactly.
and if that's all that I heard, if I heard what we talked about here this morning with evidence to show this,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
which I would have to believe you in a heartbeat. I want to believe the other stuff. If I'm on the jury. Oh, Your Honor, can I ask a question? Are we restricted to this amount of money? Punitive damages? Are we restricted to punitive? Can we add more to it if we
$5
wish?
million.
That's the way that I would be doing it about this time in my life.
Because it could happen to you.
Absolutely.
Or your son.
Uh-huh. People will railroad other people.
So I don't know why any attorney would be hesitant.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the case. Take a look at the case.
Mhm.
And I agree. If you show they use the name, yeah, the case is over.
141 of them
Yeah.
in North Carolina have been convicted.
And the other thing that you use, two things.
Mm-hmm.
The judge's verbiage about the main witness and the main detective in this, and then the Kevin Smith names. I think they'll settle right there. They'd have to.
I'd settle out of court. I wouldn't want to go before a jury.
Yeah.
I'd want to go ahead and pay whatever they're requesting, because I would think if I was the insurance company representing whoever is being sued, all of the above, I would say, you know what, they could up the ante on this thing.
Oh, they could.
Just cut our
They will.
losses. Cut our losses and get rid of that individual.
It's just a matter of you're going to have to go out of state to find somebody, and somebody big and powerful.
There's some Charlotte folks out there.
Yeah.
There's one guy in Wilmington that would do it. I
I talked to him.
Did you?
You can go out of state, but then they have to get a local attorney.
Because I would be
Somebody that's
okay to try cases in North Carolina.
well, there's some states that are reciprocal, but I see your point.
Yeah, and all you do is get this attorney here.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
like in my cousin Vinny, they had to get a
Yeah.
My cousin Vinny. Yeah, this is a crazy story.
It's an interesting. I would love it. I've loved what just little part of it I've looked at it. I mean, just me punching up a criminal history here.
Mhm.
Just a generic Kevin Smith, only in North Carolina.
And that's why you've got to come
God.
into stuff with an open mind,
Yeah.
because it took me just a few minutes, and then my mind opened, and I'm like, wait a minute now. you start hearing different aspects of the story. And he was wrongly incarcerated as far as I'm concerned. And he was his Sixth and Eighth Amendment rights were violated. And we could probably find some more rights that were violated along the way.
Likely.
It's a civil rights case.
Yes.
The smartest civil attorney that I ever dealt with was a firm at Riceville Beach. He took nothing but civil cases, and they're mostly injury cases or property damage or whatever. And I was part owner of a photography place at the time. And so we did a lot of product photography. I did, and the company did. And he came in and said, I'd like you to photograph all my evidence and stuff that I have. You got a call?
Well, it might be an attorney.
Oh, it might be an attorney. I like that. But this is just, it's a crazy story. 6 years of fighting this. 6 years.
6 years of your life.
Losing your reputation.
6 years of my life when I was 25 or 30 would be one thing. 6 years of my life when I get up there and I'm in the 50-ish range.
Right.
I'm like, I'm floating. I'm fast approaching the end of my abilities. I can't do much more. I'm going to have to be retrained. I've got to start from scratch.
Let me talk about
which is what he's doing.
Psychological issues.
I don't know how he's dealing with that.
Well, here's the deal. They have studies, and I don't have the studies in front of me, but I read studies where before you become institutionalized. So in other words, you could go to jail for a year and maintain whatever personality you had.
Right.
You could go to jail maybe 2 years. Once you pass 4 or 5 years, you have become institutionalized for the rest of your life.
Yep.
And they even did studies with people that work in prisons.
Yep.
They become institutionalized in a certain way.
It's the reason they don't mind going back, because they're accustomed to it. It's okay. It's better inside than it is outside for them.
All right, you just brought up a point. That's exactly right. So these people that become institutionalized that want to go back, what they had is the run of the prison. They had a job to go to in the morning. They had meals, mess hall. They had recreation.
Didn't have to file taxes.
They didn't have, But Kevin was 6 years in a cell. And I don't know if anybody listening could imagine being in the cell for 6 years, having your meals given to you through the cell, not going out, not talking to many people, and 48 hours in the cell, 1 hour out. Think about this. This is torture. It's like the Supreme Court. I've read cases, what constitutes cruel and unusual punishment, and it's way less than 6 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. John, there's a book over there for you to sign.
That's right. It's the only one I don't have signed. And
Lee has had it in here for the last 2 months, waiting for you to come back.
yes, because you were coming back one day. It was a month or two ago, but something came up.
Well,
and
he came
delayed
back,
it.
but you didn't have the book. And then when he did come,
That's right.
anyway,
And the second time.
so we made sure it was stayed right in here. And while it was in here, my wife decided she was going to read it.
Yes, yes. He signed all my books.
She is a reader. She reads
I love to
everything.
read. I love to read.
John, for you folks who do not know, is an acclaimed author as well.
Yes.
I get a little history about you. First of all, he spent 400 years in the FBI and survived. Came out mostly unscathed. But he also worked while he's in the FBI for way too long. He spent a little bit more time working undercover, which that also screws up your psychic. In the mob, but he was having more fun than he was actually working. Because it was fun, wasn't it?
Well, what happened is, and that's a funny story. I was a silent owner of gentlemen's clubs, so which required
A strip joint.
Yeah, well, no, high class,
A strip joint.
a high class strip.
Did women take their clothes off?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but I never looked. But anyway,
That was wrong with you.
that was my backstory. So at the point, Janet Reno, we had a corruption case.
I'm sorry.
No, she was the attorney general.
I know.
We had a corruption case that involved 52 cops, bad cops.
Mm.
And I mean, they all pled. But I was on the organized crime, the mafia side of it, and we had mob guys in Toronto and California, all over. So she says we have to end the case because of the morale of law enforcement officers that they were going to arrest 104 people, 52 were. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yep, they're not law enforcement officers; they're crooks.
So they all pled.
Yeah, they're crooks.
But at the time, I'm flying to Toronto. I'm flying to California. I'm going back to my strip joint, and so they said they're going to end the case. I said, no.
Then I got to go to headquarters and I got to work. Oh my God! I don't want to go to Washington. The politicians there.
Well, the good news is I was a pilot.
Yeah.
So what happened when the case ended and everybody pled? I went
the
special operations group, and I got to fly a plane for a few years. So I didn't have to go back in the office. I have more time out of the office than I do in my 20-something years as an agent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Nice. Well, I've got links to everything about John,
Excellent.
his YouTube channel, his website,
and as
his
an author,
books that are for sale on Amazon.
He's got a bunch of books, and
Yes.
that YouTube channel, John,
Gets my blood pressure up.
you get me going with auditors
Yes.
stories, and you get me going with that poor deputy out there, Arizona, Frank.
Yeah.
Frank
the cop.
Frank himself is a unique individual. He's got more attitude than ever had, or still even have today, and he's got an answer for everything. And it's no.
Yeah, he's smooth. He's a smooth
just-
operator.
It's just he's matter of fact.
How did you just do one 41 minutes ago? You must have had it scheduled.
Yeah, I don't handle any of that.
Yeah. Ray's arrested for interfering.
Some guy in Jersey does that for me. I don't.
Who was one of the guys that you may have arrested back in the mob days, and he's now
He was close to that.
doing your work for you.
No, he was very close, but not implicated.
Oh, the one that really got me, the last one that I watched was the frauditor who badgered the 81-year-old
Oh,
man.
the idiot, yeah.
I wanted to get in the car and go there.
Hey, that's the guy that needs a thumping.
Did you see that one?
Yeah, I did.
That pissed me off.
Look,
I
my
can
blood
tell.
pressure's going. I know my heart
There are
rate just
people
went
that
up.
need a thumping, periodically,
Yeah.
from time to time. They're going to do something. You couldn't do it as a cop, but they do need a thumping.
Well,
Some of the security guards don't have a problem thumping people from time to time.
they do, and they're allowed to.
No.
But they're trying to pass a felony law in Texas. I think that'll come out tomorrow, if I haven't done that already, where it'll make it a felony for these frauditors to harass cops while they're working.
Wish it was every state.
Really?
Yeah.
Needs to be every single state.
I really wish that I could be a cop again, just to deal with nothing but frauditors. Come harass me.
Well, and they would stop. They're stupid enough that they would do it. We've had three or four frauditors here in Jacksonville.
I was just going to ask you that one with the police officer that was harassing her.
Yeah.
I don't know who they really think they are. I don't know why they think that they have any privileges. They know that they're doing nothing but harassing people, and they're trying to make a name for themselves. Well, the name they're making is mud, except among a very few people. I don't even think their mama would like what they're doing.
But they're making money off being mud.
Right.
As soon as they take the money away, I'd be glad to stop my YouTube channel. But they're such they have like plant life. They have some really trashy people that are making big money.
Yeah. Time and again, the same people show up in this place or that place. So,
But you got to know the laws, and the problem is, in today's system, police officers don't have support
from upper.
upper. Yeah. So you have.
They don't want, the brass does not want them to create any stink.
Yeah. Well, they sue. These people have attorneys. There are guys making $500,000, $600,000, $7,000.
Well,
YouTube.
then we need one of those attorneys that they're using for Kevin, because if they can do that, they can make a fortune.
Yeah.
There's somebody out there who wants to
I know there is.
wants to
somebody.
take this case and win it, and then retire for the rest of their lives.
Right. The attorney can make a big chunk of
That's
change.
Right.
I'm going to go to law school by the time.
No, I was just thinking, why can I be his attorney?
No,
Why not?
not in a civil case like that. I don't think you can.
Why not?
That's a good question. Why not?
John and I are going to partner. We're going to be his
represent
attorneys.
yourself.
We're going to do it for
I
him.
don't know whether. I don't know. I'd have to.
John's going to take the course. I'm going to be his paralegal.
Well, it's interesting.
We'll do
You
it.
can actually file. I had a friend that was getting a divorce, and she, very bright, she went to file the papers herself, and they said, you can't. And she said, what do you mean? I can't? They're papers here.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another story. When I adopted my first daughter, I went to the attorney, and this was in 43 years ago. And they said, it's going to cost 43 years ago. So it's going to cost you like $500, which is about $2,000 now. And I said, I was an agent. I said, well, what do you have to do? Why does it cost so much? And they said, you got to go fill out all these forms and do all this other stuff. And I said, what happens if I do it? Well, I said, what happens if I do it? Well, if you do all this, it'll be $200. So you can do a lot of stuff, but the court system doesn't like you doing it.
They don't. And I ran into that one time many years ago, and the judge was sent the word back that I couldn't do what I was going to do, and did until I got there. And she said, "Oh, that was you doing this?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." So now we can talk about this in open court. No, you're good. You're good. Granted.
Boy,
Just like that.
Lori Vallow can represent herself in her murder case. John and I can go represent Kevin in his civil case.
The only thing we could win the case, no problem, because I could do the investigation.
Yep.
But filling out the forms, if you screw up on the forms, the
There's
case
a
could get thrown out. Yeah.
That's the only issue that you've got.
Yeah.
So
Well, if we got an attorney on the side that'll be willing to take a cut quietly, that doesn't want his name out there, but will help us fill out the forms, we can do it.
We'll do it.
there's some
We'll do it.
there are some retired attorneys around here.
Yes.
I'm sure that we know that.
Call Rayford. We already have the investigation.
Yeah, it's
That's
done.
what
All
I
you gotta
did
do
for a
is-
living.
You just got to put the whereases in it. Whereas
Ooh,
in there
would be
and be
really
done with it.
good.
Let me tell you, if you're listening,
Chuck, are you listening?
the only thing you'll have to
That should
do
be good.
is subpoena. We will do the investigation,
We'll serve
and-
the papers for you.
and we'll get the questions and answers at the.
Right.
We don't even need an attorney at the civil.
Oh,
here-
no.
But it'll never go to that.
No, it won't. This will be settled.
So you want to make $1 million? Call Rayford. We'll do the work.
Yes.
Yep, this should be a $10 million suit.
Wait for her
yeah.
to get a cut
And
too.
then they're going to get 33% of that. You want $3 million? There's a great case here waiting for you. It is. We've already done the work for you.
We have.
I'm sorry.
I have.
I'll
all
do
the
it for a
evidence.
dinner.
Yeah.
I'll give you everything we know for dinner. And Bon Air.
Well, we'll see what happens tonight.
Okay, let's see.
Yes. I'm anxious to hear his
No, you know,
rest of his story.
we'll get that on. And if you're looking, and let's talk tonight again. So just in case.
Sounds
Okay,
good to me.
Tonight, folks, WITN, Dave Jordan's got part 2. of
6 p.m.
6 o'clock tonight. So just must see TV. Grab yourself a beverage and sit down in front of it and watch it. Between now and then, if you've got the time, go to WITN.com, look at the story that they ran last night, and then you'll be familiar with it, and then you'll be up to speed. Even if you watched it last night, take another look at it tonight. You should be really interested by tonight. Okay? And our thanks to Dave Jordan from WITN and the shooter that he had, that photographer that he had down here for taking the time.
The shooter he had down here in the studio.
We always had to be very careful in news when sending a crew out. Now, be sure, John,
Shooter.
you get some shots of the president. No. You don't say things like that.
Hi, Jack.
Keywords.
Hi,
Keywords.
Jack, how you doing? No, you bam. All right, we got to go. John, it's a pleasure as always.
Always.
That's your live and local real talk
Whew.
right here, where we're always awake, never woke. We'll see you in the morning, 7 o'clock. Stay dry and slow down.